After spending some time with it, I thought it might be helpful to share what I have noticed so far. At its core, this is a tool for when you want straight, consistent reference lines without constantly pulling out a tape measure, a pencil, and a bubble level. I have been using it for the kind of work that usually gets annoying fast, like lining up wall decor, setting light fixtures, laying out shelves, and marking consistent heights around a room. If you do home projects, install trim, hang cabinets, or even just want your frames to stop looking slightly crooked every time you walk past them, this kind of tool actually gets used more often than you think. What makes this one stand out in day-to-day use is how much coverage you get around a space once it is on. Instead of giving you a single line that only helps in one direction, it throws lines that let you reference more of the room at once. In practice, that means I can set it down, get it leveled, and then walk around the room making marks without needing to keep moving the tool every 2 minutes. Physically, it feels like a job site tool, not a delicate desk gadget. The housing feels solid in the hand and the buttons have a firm press to them. It is not tiny, but it is also not awkward to carry around. I have tossed it back in its case after a project, carried it with other tools, and it has held up fine so far. The case matters more than I expected because it keeps everything in one place and I am not hunting for parts later. Setup is straightforward. I usually place it on something stable, turn it on, and let it do its thing. The self-leveling behavior is one of those features you stop thinking about once you trust it. If it is sitting on something that is too uneven, it lets you know, and you will see that the line is not in a usable state until you adjust. Once it settles, the line stops wavering and you can start marking. That sounds basic, but it is the difference between a tool that saves time and a tool that makes you second-guess every measurement. I have used it on a stack of books, on a shelf, and on a tripod. The ability to mount it and position it in different ways is what makes it practical. On one project, I needed a consistent height line across a wall for a row of frames. I set the level up, got the horizontal line where I wanted it, then made light pencil marks at each spot. The part that usually takes forever is checking each frame one by one, stepping back, adjusting, stepping back again. With the laser line there, I could set each frame bracket relative to the line and move on. When I came back to hang everything, the alignment was already handled. Another real use for me was installing a ceiling light fixture that had a geometric shape. Anything with multiple edges makes small alignment mistakes obvious. I positioned the laser so I could reference both the center and the straight orientation I wanted. Then I adjusted the mounting point until it visually matched the line. It saved me from drilling extra holes, which is honestly the main reason I reach for a laser level in the first place. Drywall does not give you many free retries before it starts looking messy. I also tested it for a homemade pegboard layout, which is basically an accuracy test. If your lines drift even a little, the holes and rows start looking wrong as the pattern expands. With the laser on, I could draw long straight lines without snapping a chalk line or measuring out a bunch of points. I still measured key distances, because you should, but the laser made sure the line itself stayed true over the whole length. That is where this tool earns its keep, because it reduces the slow, error-prone steps. Visibility is always the big question. Indoors, I had no trouble seeing the lines on typical wall paint, wood, and tile, even with ceiling lights on. In brighter areas near windows, it depends on the surface and angle. I could still work, but I had to be more intentional about where I stood and sometimes dim the room a bit. For outdoor use or very bright spaces, I would not pretend any laser line is magic. You position it, use shade when you can, and you use the included target when you need to pick up the line at distance. That is just the reality of lasers in sunlight. One feature I ended up using more than I expected is the remote control. When I am working alone, I do not want to walk back and forth to the tool to toggle lines or change what is active. I used the remote when I was lining up marks on 2 walls in the same room. I would make adjustments, step back to check, then switch modes without returning to the unit. It sounds like a small thing, but it reduces the little interruptions that slow you down. The magnetic mounting is also genuinely useful. If you have any exposed metal like a metal corner bead, a steel stud area, or even certain workshop surfaces, you can stick it on and it stays put. I would still be cautious on a dusty surface, because dust can weaken the hold and a fall is a fall. When I needed more flexibility, I used a tripod, which gave me finer height control and more stable positioning for longer sessions. Battery life has been steady in my use. I have not had it die mid-task, and having a spare battery in the kit makes it easier to keep working. I charge one while using the other when I know I have multiple projects in a row. That is the kind of routine that keeps a tool like this from becoming a drawer item. There are a few limitations worth saying out loud. The biggest one is that you still have to take a minute to place it well. If you rush the setup and put it on something that flexes or wobbles, your line will move and you will blame the tool when it is really the placement. Another thing is that reflective or glossy surfaces can make the line harder to interpret because you get glare and secondary reflections. On shiny tile, I sometimes had to shift my viewing angle to make sure I was marking the true line, not a reflection. I also think this kind of tool can create a false sense of security if you stop measuring entirely. I use it as a straight reference, not as permission to stop thinking. If I am centering something on a wall, I still measure the center. If I am spacing multiple items, I still measure the spacing. The laser just ensures my reference stays straight and consistent as I work. Overall, my impression is that the DOVOH H3-360G is the kind of laser level that fits naturally into real home and workshop tasks. It does the unglamorous job of keeping things aligned, and it saves time mostly by preventing small mistakes that become big fixes later. It has been reliable in my projects so far. It is easy to set up once you learn where to place it, and the remote and mounting options make it less of a hassle when you are working alone. I will leave detailed information about the DOVOH H3-360G high visibility laser level in the comments for your reference. Thank you for watching.